I think we can officially get started. For the ones out there, for the attendees, thank you so much for connecting. Well, welcome to another Creative Zone webinar. Today we have the amazing Vusi with us. Vusi, it's a real pleasure to be with you. Vusi Thembekwayo from South Africa. All of you that are connected, I'm sure you know who he is. I mean, that's why you're connected here with us. But Vusi, again, thank you so much for connecting and being here with us. It's an absolute pleasure to be with you.
Thank you, Squire. Thank you for having me.
So for all of you, just a small introduction. Vusi, as you know, he's one of Africa's most renowned venture capitalists. He's an investor, a businessman, an entrepreneur. He has become one of the most renowned speakers around the world. I mean, I can remember in the last few months how your videos kept on coming up on my screen. You talking about entrepreneurship, about startups. Honestly, personally, it's a pleasure to see you here, Vusi, because I've been following you. I'm looking at what you've been doing, the content that you put out, and it's a pleasure. So maybe just to get started, Vusi, you've grown from the township of Vaudeville to what I was reading to one of the most successful venture capitalists in Africa, a very renowned speaker. Your last book is called Business and Life Lessons from a Black Dragon. Maybe if we can get started, what would be in a nutshell these lessons that you've learned in the last few years of your career?
So, thanks, Lorenzo. Just for context, when I did my last book, the publisher wanted me to write a book about my life. And I said to the publisher, I said, but I'm not dead yet. So I don't know, how do you write a book? Like, how do you write a book and the end chapter is the middle of your life story? I was like, yeah, I mean, at the time, we worked on the book probably about 3 years ago. So at the time I was like 31, 32. And I was like, well, I'm not dead yet. So what we'll do is we'll summarize lessons I've learned over my life. And we'll tell my life story, and embedded in the life story will be the lessons. And it won't be chronological. It'll be based on a lesson per chapter. But, it's simple things that I talk about in the book, stuff like the importance of your word, that if you give it, you have to stand by it. And sometimes if you give your word, you have to stand by it, even if it costs you money. I could write a book about how much money I've lost because I made a commitment and now I have to stand behind that commitment. But over time, I've learned that reputation and credibility is actually, you can't put an amount of money on that in a bank account. It'll open more doors for you than you can imagine, and it'll create more opportunities for you than you can imagine. And also stuff like humility, that you don't let your success become you. And there's that beautiful poem by Rudyard Kipling called If. And there's a line in the poem where Rudyard Kipling says, if you can meet victory and defeat and treat both imposters just the same, then you'll be a man.
Wow.
And he says that is, to make the point that if you can meet victory and defeat and not be defined by either of those things, because in life, victory will happen, but defeat is going to happen too. So for me, very simple, basic lessons. And no matter where I've gone in my life, those lessons have stood me in great stead.
That's amazing. And thank you to the attendees. We're starting to get some questions. We totally encourage you to send your questions. We have 170 people connected. Send your questions over. I'll try to read a few. I'm sure we're going to receive many of them. Hello from South Africa. We have somebody from Mfowethu. Is this, I'm guessing, a place in South Africa?
Yeah, no, he's saying Mfowethu, which means my brother.
Okay. Thanks, my brother. That's cool. Okay. I can see in your speeches, you use a lot of your sort of slang and the way you guys speak in South Africa, correct? In your speeches.
Absolutely. It's important, it's important to allow yourself to. So I got to tell you an interesting thing about me, Lorenzo. So I see Alex Granger is in the conversation, and Alex and I know each other well. But for a lot of people who don't know me, there is the persona of what they see, which is, as is the case with everything, it's like 20% of who you are, right? Because it's not as if you show every part of your life. And so I was on Dragon's Den in South Africa. And there is a part of me that is a part of me, which is when I do business, I bring business Vusi to the conversation. It's a business conversation. And so, for about 10 years, I carried this persona of how people perceived me as this really, uptight, stuck-up guy who couldn't really take a joke. And so, I just decided one day, I was like, I'm actually going to start talking to people the way I talk to people every day, but I'm going to talk to them like that on social media. So I'll start referring to people to things like Mzalwane, which is another great little local colloquialism, right? What we call each other when we're believers. But basically what it means is like we're family, right? And as I've used that speech and that language, I've found that people are a lot more, just a lot more human. And I think that's a part of where we are today. It's really important to just be human.
That's excellent. That's excellent. All right. Well, so also for the attendees, for you to understand a little bit who we are Creative Zone. I'm the CEO of Creative Zone. It's a company that was established 10 years ago in Dubai by two partners. We help people set up businesses in Dubai and the UAE. And we have a lot of the people connected today are our own clients. And we have, I'm sure, a lot of people connected from different parts of the world. So anybody that needs a hand and information in coming and setting up in Dubai and learning more about setting up your business, we're here to help. So Vusi, let's get started and let's go down to it. I was reading, you tweeted 20 minutes ago. It says, there is a time for every season in your life. Lament not the season, show up. Yeah. What do you mean by this? What is the moment that we're going through as entrepreneurs?
I'm going to be completely honest with you. First, I'll tell you my own personal kind of journey that I'm at the moment. Then I'll transfer it to kind of where we all are. Yeah. If you are a human being living on a little rock called planet Earth today, and you're not willing to admit to yourself that your life is a little bit in chaos, you're either in denial or you're so sheltered from everyday reality that you're not seeing what's happening around you. And I think that's the case for all of us. So at a personal level, Lorenzo, we've got a business that we've built in my VC firm over the past 8 years. And our core product has been cannibalized by a state-sponsored program that I can't compete with on a price basis. So every time I go to the market now, the state has got a program out in the market that gives better points to my customers and cannibalizes me on price. So I can't compete on that. And then we've got a market adjacency we've been trying to grow into. And it's been really, really slow and lethargic. And that's now going to be our new reality. And while all of this is happening, I've still got a team, a group of people that I'm employing full-time who's sitting on my P&L. I've got very beautiful, expensive offices in the richest square mile in the continent. So my fixed costs are very, very high. And yet I'm not gaining the traction in the marketplace. So I've spent much of lockdown thinking about my organization 3.0. I had an organization 1.0, had an organization 2.0, and 3.0 for us is very, very difficult because what I'm doing is I'm digitizing a whole host of the things that I'm doing in the business. We've taken on a program now around right-sizing the business. So there's some roles that won't fit in terms of where we're going. There's some roles we're completely stripping out. And then we might be able to add new roles. As we're doing this, literally a week ago today, I was sitting in my office with somebody who's going to be taken over from me. And her and I were having this conversation. I said, I'm firing myself. I want to get out of here. You've got to take over this whole thing. On Monday, I was sitting in my office with somebody who's taken over our entire sales. So this is it's the season. There's nothing you can do. And while all of this is happening, I've had to take very deep personal cuts and pains around earnings, around salary, around a whole host of things, because you can't, as an entrepreneur, keep drawing this big amount of money from your business when you're trying to make sure that it's got the lifeblood in circulation to keep it going, right? So that's what I meant. It's the season, and you can't deny, I feel like if you go through a winter, you can't wish the winter away. It's winter. And every single year we know that winter is going to come. So if you are in this process of building an enterprise, building a business, building a career, building anything, you've got to understand there's going to be cycles. There's going to be booms and busts. And you can't, when you get to the bust, go, oh, woe is me, and life is so unfair. Who else must the bust happen to? Who else must the difficult time happen to, if not you? You're just as human as everybody else. So you need to experience those things just like everybody else. So that's what I meant. And I think today, all of us as entrepreneurs, we're going through a season. If you are an entrepreneur, a real entrepreneur, and you not really have to think about cost-cutting measures, not have to think about some level of retrenchments or furlough, I mean, then you're either in a great institutional business, which means you're shielded from the reality of the rest of us, or you're not paying attention. And I pity the guys in the institutional businesses too, because at the end of this, what will happen is the economy is going to go through a massive restructure. And as the economy goes through a massive restructure, a lot of their institutional mandates will end. And when they end, they would not have geared themselves for what the new reality would have been because they've been protected from it whilst the shift and change was happening. So that's the moment. It's the season. Don't lament it. Take it, take charge of it, own it, and make the tough decisions.
We were talking about this earlier. We were talking about this rebuilding your engine. I understand that there's a lot of things that you're doing in adapting and cutting costs and stuff, but how do you reactivate your productive side of the company? How do you gain new business? How do you go out and make money nowadays?
Man, if I can tell you. So literally this morning, this is the conversation I was having with myself. And it's the conversation I was having with myself because it's the conversation I was having with the guy who's going to be taking over sales and marketing for us. So if you look at a great soccer team, what makes a great soccer team is not that they've got phenomenal goal scorers or that they've got great defenders. It's actually that they've got a great team. And usually how the team is built is at the center of the team. So if you think about the most prolific soccer players that we celebrate, they tend to either be midfields or attacking forwards. What that tells you is that the great composition of a team isn't at defense, right? It's at organization and at offense. That's what we celebrate. Like if I say, Pele, Ronaldinho, Ronaldo, Ronaldo, the other Ronaldo, Dr. Kumalo, I could go on and on and on and on. George Ware, literally I could go on and on. You'll usually find they're either playing the midfield or they play in the attacking platform. There's a reason I'm telling you this. So when we go through a time like this, usually what happens is our senses kick in and we begin to panic because we go, I'm in survival mode now. I need to survive. So what we start doing is we start making survival decisions and we forget that you still have to build a business. That means you still got to have a sense of offense. So survival is about defense. It means we're being attacked on our end. We need a great defensive strategy. We need the defensive players to work together. We need the midfield to support them. And we need a goalkeeper to have his eyes every single place, right? That's got to happen. But what's the point of having a great defensive strategy if by the time we catch the ball and we hit it forward, there's nobody at offense? We're constantly going to be at defense. So if you're an entrepreneur today, you have to learn how to build offense and defense. Yeah. Offense is how do I protect current revenues, current customers, current core. That's defense. How do I protect business as is? Offense is, right, 3 months, 6 months. How do we make sure that we have made a problem for somebody else? Right. And you can't wait for 3 months to implement the offense strategy. You've got to implement it now. And so that's why for me, even though I'm in defense mode, I'm bringing people who are going to help me with the offense because I understand. You and I are having a conversation about how do I base myself in Dubai because I recognize that that's a part of offense. If I don't get offense right when the market is in recession, then I'm not going to be able to pick up on economic opportunities when the market picks up again. Right? And I think that's the mistake a lot of people make. They wait for the market to pick up before they react. It's too late then. The market is now in upcycle. Somebody's taking charge of that swing. Yeah. What you need to do is to get ahead of the offense by planning now.
A lot of the clients that we work with here in Dubai are startups, are entrepreneurs that come, they have a solo entrepreneur type of company, 1 to 3 employees, some of them 3 to 5. They're smaller companies. How do they go in that offensive mode in saying, how do I grow from being a 3 people employed company to a 30 employed company?
So that's a great question. And I think there's a couple of points to make there. First, not every industry is geared for number of employee growth. So that's a phenomenal question, Lorenzo. You and I were having the conversation the other day. Be clear on what you need to measure. What's your measure of success? Because if I run a 3-man operation that does $3 million a year, and I grow it to a 3-man operation that does $10 million a year, then maybe the number of $1 million we make is the measure of success, not the number of employees we have. And this is a developing mindset, developing economies mindsets go, we need to the more people I have in my factory, the more successful my factory. But when WhatsApp was bought for $1 billion, there were less than 50 people in that building. Was WhatsApp not a successful business then? So you've got to be clear on what is your measure of success. The measure of success has to be impact. It can't be all the other things that are attached to ego. And it's ego. I always say to entrepreneurs, ROE is return on equity, not return on ego. And a lot of us think ROE is return on ego. So it's, where is my office? How beautiful is I've made this mistake myself. Where's my office? How beautiful is my office? How much is my rent? I have a car and a driver and I get chauffeur to place it. Yeah, that's all return on ego. Let's talk bottom line, numbers. What are you actually doing in your business? So for me, when you want to think about scaling or growing your business, the question is, what is the right way to scale your business? And how do you make sure that you measure the right stuff? You've got to measure customer satisfaction, measure market penetration, measure customer share of wallet. Another thing we don't do as entrepreneurs, we don't measure customer share of wallet. Here's what that means. If a customer buys, so if I have a customer, right? I'm your customer, Lorenzo, and you run a restaurant, and I only come to your restaurant in the mornings for breakfast. Does that mean I don't need lunch? Does that mean I don't need dinner? So how do I build a strong restaurant? Because I know my restaurant is going to be open in the morning from 8 o'clock, probably to the evening at 8 o'clock, which means I've probably got a lunch platform, a lunch service, and I've got a dinner service. So if I position my restaurant as a breakfast only service, then I'm competing in a breakfast only market, and I'm going to have good market share in the breakfast only space. So the great thing to begin to do is how do you expand your customer share of wallet? That's what we're busy with. So I've said to the guys, we're going to go offense, we're going to get new customers, but defense, let's go to our current customers and let's expand our share of wallet. We know that we're not getting every single rand from our customers. So let's do that first. And that for me is a far more important measure at the moment than how many people am I employing? How many places do I have offices? If you measure the wrong stuff, you're going to do the wrong stuff. So you got to get the measure right, and the measure then gives you the right actions.
Now this leads me to this really good question, and I think it's posted by somebody here. What is the difference between a professional, an entrepreneur, and a business owner? Well, how do we define each of them, and what are their differences?
So, great question. So the difference between a professional, an entrepreneur, a self-employed person, right? I'm gonna answer it first at the extreme, and then I'll come back down. An entrepreneur can disappear for 90 days, and the business will still make its numbers, and the customers will still be happy. That's an entrepreneur. So if you can't disappear from your business for 90 days, you're not really an entrepreneur, you're self-employed. And a lot of people make this mistake. So I'm a designer, right? Say I write code, or I do applications, or I do graphic design, and I work for a large company. Then I decide one day, I really want to work for myself. And I leave the large company with the comfort of a guaranteed salary, medical insurance, car allowance, bonus at the end of the year, share options, and all the rest of it. And I go, I'm going to go work for myself because I was on this webinar with Vusi and Lorenzo, and I feel pumped, and COVID is about to end, and oh man, I'm going to go do my own thing. Great. So I go out to do my own thing. I build a beautiful little website on WordPress or Wix or something. I start getting some customers coming through. And as the customer comes through and asks me to do the work, I do the work because I'm the designer, right? It's my eye that's got to do the design. At that stage, I'm not an entrepreneur. What I've done is I've employed myself. I'm just self-employed. That is to say, if I'm not there doing the work's not going to happen. But then I grow it. So I get a couple of customers coming in, and they really love my work, and they're really satisfied. And I hire 4 more people to start doing the design, and I'm the guy that manages the people that do the work. What I know for sure is if I'm not there to manage the people, they're going to slack, the work's going to go wrong, I'm going to start getting customer complaints. So by the time I get to 4-man, 5-man operation, I'm a business owner. I'm still not an entrepreneur. Because if I'm not there running the restaurant, opening the door, making sure that the stove at the back is getting warmed up and customers are coming in and everybody's happy. If I'm not there literally physically looking, things are going to go wrong. At that stage, I'm a business owner. That's usually the place where many entrepreneurs get to, Lorenzo, and I can't tell you how many times I've seen this, where the guys go from self-employed and they have this massive exponential rise, and they get to like business owner, and then they just start to plateau and plateau and plateau and plateau because they have this, what I call the I-do syndrome. And the I-do syndrome is nobody does it better than I do. So they want to overlook and oversee everything. Now, I've got to be honest here. If you want to grow from business owner to entrepreneur, take it from me because it has cost me millions. You will make mistakes. It's a risk. You're going to hire the wrong people. You're going to get things wrong. So if you want to get everything right, then you shouldn't make the transition.
What are some of those biggest mistakes that you've done that we can share with the audience that they can avoid or they can look into, you know?
So you know, let me answer this, then I'll answer your question about the biggest mistake. So the entrepreneur is the guy who he builds the systems and the processes in the business so that the business runs and the systems and the processes manage how people work. That is, guys, let me tell you, there are MBA theses written on this stuff. It is the single hardest thing to do. I'm convinced it's harder than Elon Musk going to space. I'm convinced of it. Building systems and processes to run a business is the hardest thing to do, right? Because a system is garbage in, garbage out. So building it is the hardest thing to do. What are some of those mistakes? The first is you don't build the right system and process. And by the way, there is a difference between a system and a process. A process usually is flow-led. It goes from one point to another, and one point feeds the other. So it's what we call a process flow. A system is an intelligent way of managing that process flow. That's what people don't understand. So a process might be, I write down, I'll give you our process. Our process is a customer goes in, sees our website, wants to book Vusi, right? We've got this whole process written down. They want to book Vusi, they send us an email through our website, we get the information, my sales team contacts them, we start getting into a price negotiation, we get dates, yada, yada, yada. And then at the end of it, we agree on a time, a date, da, 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 and then this event happens. After this, you're going to get a link from my team, you give us some feedback. And every single Monday, we have feedback conversations. What are customers saying? Did I deliver? Did I not deliver? Was there an issue with my presentation? How do we improve? Yada, yada, yada. That's the process. The system is all of this is happening on my CRM and on Asana. So even if I wasn't at the office for 90 days, I can go into my CRM on Zoho or go into my project management system on Asana, and it's going to give me the information and the details. So the first thing is, if you want to scale, the biggest mistake entrepreneurs make is they don't understand that what you literally have to do, listen to this, because when I learned this, my life changed. You have to make the business your second brain. That means you have to take your brain and the way your brain works and rebuild it in this organism called a business. The way you think, the way you move, the business has to do that.
Yeah.
So that's the first mistake I think guys make, Lorenzo. The second biggest mistake is we get the people element wrong. We hire wrong. We hire because I like you, so let me hire you, you know? We hire because, you know, you came really highly recommended. You know, I'm gonna pay you 4 times what I had initially budgeted because I really want you to do this job. And then I realized that actually you came from a large corporate. You know, when you work in a large corporate, it's funny, right? I could work in a large corporate in marketing and be a rock star. Do you know why? Because when I work in a large corporate in marketing, all I do is logos and marketing. That's all I do. The minute I come to a small startup, my job now expands to marketing, customer service, a little bit of customer retention, a little bit of sales. I have to do a little bit of HR. Now, my job just gets so far spread. And a lot of us entrepreneurs, we love getting people who come from these big companies with big titles and pay them big salaries, but they're not able to transpose into a small business environment because they're not ready mentally to work in a small business environment. So we get the hires wrong. If there is one lesson I can give to any person watching this, and it's because I've made that mistake more times than I care to remember, you have to get the people element right. If you get the people element right.
The thing that I see most of us, the challenge that we face is, how do you scale up knowing that you are not there? You're not the face. You're not the one in charge. I mean, this happened to me. I had a media company and I felt that I couldn't grow it because I felt that if it wasn't me in the meetings, if it wasn't me closing the deals, if it wasn't me doing the post work, and I couldn't let go. And I think this is something that happens to everybody. So even in your case, how do you scale, Vusi? If you're not there, if you're not the one in the screen today, how do you grow your business? And I think this happens to 80-90% of our people here, right?
Exactly. And so by the way, my speaking business, it does have a limitation on how I can scale it, right? It does have a limitation on how I can scale it because I've got to be in this conversation.
Yeah.
But so we're busy with some stuff behind the scenes and I'll share it with you. We're busy developing a tech platform right now where you will be able to access Vusi content. And there's going to be some content that we serve freemium and there's going to be some content that's going to be premium. So I'm going, well, and so when we run the analytics, we've got a digital agency in Cape Town that helps us. When we run the analytics, the amount of views, likes, images, shares that I get from all over the world. I mean, there's parts of the world where my stuff goes viral. My stuff has gone viral in Punjab, India. I've never been to Punjab. Nobody's ever invited me. You know, but my video will go complete, and then my digital team can track it, right? Because they got these little like Google bots, and they track the stuff, and they go, dude, your stuff was shared 180,000 times in this particular place in India or in Kuala Lumpur, right? You've got a massive market here. So what I'm realizing now is that actually I'm at a great position where people are now tapping into me beyond my personality and beyond my brand for my content. Well, if that's the case, let's build a platform where we can make the content available. We'll continue to serve some content for free. But for the really growth content, we're going to create a premium model, and you're going to pay to access that content. Now, Lorenzo, it might work, it might not.
To everybody out there, go quickly and download every single video that you find on YouTube from Vusi right now. Starting next week, they're all going to be blocked, all right? So go quickly download everything. Now, you're right on the money on that, Vusi, and it's about that digital experience and stuff. I wanted to take you to another place. You just mentioned Elon Musk.
Yeah.
What goes through your mind when you hear people like Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Steve Jobs? What these people have that we don't have?
What do they have that we don't have? Simple. It's a little thing with 4 letters on it. It's called grit. Grit is what I call the pit bull factor. If you've ever seen a pit bull in a fight, it ain't pretty. A pit bull in a fight is not worried about who likes it and who doesn't like it, and what does the PR look like, and oh, I've got to be such a nice guy. It's a pit bull. It's in a fight. So what a pit bull does is it grabs, it locks its jaws, and it doesn't let go.
I love that.
You could pour boiling water. It ain't letting go. That's why it's the most dangerous, ferocious dog in the... I mean, you know, back in the day when they used to make dogs do fighting, which was illegal and unethical and immoral. So I'm not condoning it. But back, everybody knew that if you brought a pit bull to the fight, there was no other dog, no other breed that could match a pit bull. Why? Because the minute it gets a hold of the target, it ain't letting go. And it's going to do this with its neck until it rips to shred the other. It's kind of, what does the crocodile do? A crocodile grabs and it spins and spins and spins and spins and spins until eventually it tears you apart. What a lot of us do is we grab and then life happens. Then we let go. So I grab and I lose my people. I lose a customer. Or I get a bad review on Google reviews, or we don't deliver a project on time, or my customer doesn't renew a contract, or, you know, I go through a divorce, or something happens and I let go. Steve Jobs. I mean, there's a video I'd love to show it to you that I've got of Elon Musk. Elon Musk is sitting there talking to a 60-second, what did they call it? 60-minute, life in 60 minutes, that whole interview. The guy's interviewing him and he says, how do you feel when you hear people like Neil Armstrong tell you that your quest to go to space is ridiculous? And Elon Musk starts crying. It's the only time I've ever seen Elon Musk emotional. He literally goes to the brink of tears. And he says, that broke my heart, because those guys are heroes of mine.
Yeah.
Then he says, regardless, I'm going to the moon. Now you have to remember, I remember a time when Elon Musk had just taken all of his money that he made from PayPal and X.com, planted it into Tesla, and everybody thought, what are you doing? Are you mad? You're crazy. You must be stupid. People forget that when SpaceX was, SpaceX had a liquidity event, he couldn't raise more capital. This is less than 5 years ago. And he moved out of his home, he sold his house, he went and moved into an apartment, and he took the money that he made from that and he put it into SpaceX. That's because he had already expanded and used all of his money that he made from the PayPal transaction to build Tesla. Now, there are many of us, I'm telling you for free, if I made the billions of dollars he made from PayPal, the last thing I'd be doing is writing code and trying to go to the moon. I'd be in Monaco somewhere, waiting for the coronavirus to end so I can get back on Earth, or get back on land and watch the F1. But what these guys are driven by is grit. They grab and they don't let go. I want to say one last thing, sorry, Lorenzo. If you're in this conversation and you think your life is tough, right? I want you to recognize that one of the most recognized entrepreneurs in the world today, Richard Branson, is literally on the brink of bankruptcy.
True.
Now, you got to think about what that means for somebody like Branson, with his name and his brand and his reputation, and he's still going through this stuff. So the point about it is nobody is immune from the world and what we're going through right now.
Yeah.
What the winners have that the losers don't have is grit. There's that beautiful line by Jay-Z. He said, the most genius thing we ever did was we didn't give up. And I think for me, that's probably the it factor.
And that shows you what opportunity means for anybody out there. I mean, Richard Branson has for the last 20 years been the icon of entrepreneurship around the world. And then suddenly you see Richard Branson kind of shading away from that position, and you see him, as you're saying, at the verge of bankruptcy, and then you have Elon Musk going off and sending rockets to the moon and so on. This says a lot, right?
It says a lot. But remember, you asked me earlier about my tweet when I said, show up for the season. So Richard Branson is not going, well, I'm Richard Branson. He has to show up. So for the people here who are not aware, follow it on Bloomberg and Wall Street Journal. But Richard Branson has been going to the United Kingdom government, literally cap in hand, begging them to help him keep the Virgin enterprise alive. Begging, right? Virgin Australia, I think, is almost folded. Virgin Money in Australia is the only one. And the only reason Virgin Money in Australia is still going is because he only owns 8% of it. But it looks like what's going to happen is they need to recapitalize Virgin Money in Australia. He doesn't have the capital to follow on his rights. So he might get diluted completely out of Virgin Money in Australia. This is Richard Branson. Yet at the same time this is happening, you're right. Elon Musk is going to the moon. Jeff Bezos has become the wealthiest man in the world. And so nobody is immune. Nobody is immune. I'll tell you a funny little anecdotal story. So I was a little boy. I was probably 8 or 9. And my dad and I had gone to fetch my mom at work. And we pulled up on like this traffic light. And there was a guy next to us in a beautiful, I'll never forget, it was a beautiful BMW 328i. And it was like this beautiful peach purpley color. And man, I looked at that guy in that car and I said to my dad, I was like, dude, don't you want that guy's car? Like, don't you want that guy's life? Guy like that, he must have his life all figured out. And my dad said, he said, the universe works in equal measure. He said, that guy's problems are the size of his car. He said, I wouldn't take that car if you paid me. And I think there are people even in this conversation who go, so-and-so's got it figured out. Let me tell you, I know so-and-so. Their problems are in equal measure to their blessings. That's the way the universe works. That you're given the strength of your gift, and the gift is going to come with its equal burden. You have to carry both of those regardless.
Yeah, 100%. Let me bring the conversation a little bit into Dubai. We have a lot of entrepreneurs connected from our clients, people that want to grow their business. They need investment. They need seed funding. We know that you have a very successful VC company that you're running. What is it that you like investing in? How can we help some of our entrepreneurs that need money? What tips can you give them? What is it that you like investing in right now? We have a question here that says, why has Vusi never invested in crypto? So what do you like investing in? What can you tell our guys here in Dubai, our creative zone clients? We have a lot of people that need investment. What would you tell them?
So, that's a big one. Let me come around that. So let me first admit where I am, my shortcoming. I don't like investing in things I don't understand. It's a paranoia. And so as a consequence of it, I tend to limit the things I can invest in, because it means I first have to learn what I'm putting my money in, and then I put my money in it, right? So that's a part of it. I've not really, by the way, I do have a crypto investment. I do. I just don't publicize it. And the reason I don't publicize it is because on social media, there are a lot of scammers who build these crypto things and go, Vusi, just put in 300 million into this crypto thing, put your money in here. And so the same reason as I do have money sitting in Forex, but I don't publicize it, because there are a lot of people who scam people using Forex, and they will use your name. If I go out in public now and say, I do Forex investing, someone tomorrow will be on Facebook creating a Vusi Forex page, going, give me your money. I'm Vusi. If you give me your money, I'll invest it for you. Then people's money will disappear. Wow. So in the public, I tend to have this really conservative investor approach. The question you asked was very pointed. You said, what do investors look for? I think the first thing to understand is this. If you don't have to raise external funding for your business, don't. Right. And we in this culture today, Lorenzo, where we celebrate how much money is raised and the growth and valuation rather than how much wealth is created. Like let's create wealth. Let's talk about growth in revenues, talk about growth in EBITDAs, talk about growth in, NOPLATs. Let's talk about that stuff. Why are we talking about the growth in the enterprise value and how much money you're raising at Series A, Series B, et cetera, et cetera? So if you don't have to raise money, guys, don't, because then you're going to be beholden to somebody who, by the way, if I give you my money, it's not going to be condition free. It's going to come with me telling you how to run your business. That's a part of what the money comes with. In my own VC firm, please don't share this. There's 218 people in this conversation. So I'll share it with you guys, all of us in this little room that we're here in on Zoom. I'm only raising external capital now for the first time. The past 8 years has been my money. Do you want to know why? Because when I did put down 5.5, 6 million rand, that's about $500,000 in a tech business in Cape Town, and we lost it. The only person I had to explain it to was me and my wife. Now, could you imagine if I'd lost that amount of money and I'd used other people's money, right? So always, if you don't have to raise external capital, don't. If you can build a business and scale it, and in it can generate enough free cash flows that it can self-fund, absolutely you got to do that. There's only 3 reasons why you raise external capital. The first is you need the external capital to pay for a development of the platform so that you can sell the platform. So you need to build the app, the thing, so that you can access the market. Then you'd raise some external capital. The second reason you raise some external capital is because you build the MVP. What we call the TAM in VC, the total addressable market, is so big that even if you grew at 500% a year, you wouldn't capture 1% of the market, right? So what you do is you raise external funding so you can accelerate your rate of growth. That's when you raise external funding. And the third reason you raise external funding is you've reached a level of maturity and growth in your business that at that level of maturity and growth, you're plateauing using your own internal resources. And you now need to unlock more what we call long-term patient capital. And here, usually you're going to get money from banks, you're going to get money from investment banks, right? So you just got to be clear on why are you raising. Once you're clear on the why you're raising, then what happens is the who to raise from becomes very clear. Another thing entrepreneurs do, please don't go to every single VC and ask them to invest in your money. Do your homework. Our fund now is very focused on tech with industrial and commercial applications. So I don't do consumer tech. So if you've just built an app that's going to help people, paint their toenails a different color, that's not what I would do. But if you have an industrial application that's going to help factories run more efficiently, or going to help an industrial application that might help hospitals allocate beds better for people, that's literally what I'm looking at now. We've got one that's sitting on our table right now. These guys have built this phenomenal application that you can plug into with an API, you can plug into any of the backend systems that run many of the hospital groups. And those hospital groups can understand the amount of capacity they have to deal with the COVID virus. How many beds sitting in ICU, how many in pre-ICU and trauma. At a click of a button, at any second, it'll be able to give you that data. Now, if you're running one hospital, you don't need the application. But if you're running a big hospital group with 100 hospitals, you need to know that if you've got a hospital in Kunu, there's 99 beds in it available today, and that's where you can send people. That we would look at. It's a technology application with commercial and industrial.
The Uber of COVID beds.
Oh, there you go. There you go. There was another one I was looking at literally on Monday called COVID Corona Fighter. We're not going to do the deal. But it's an interesting little business. These guys have built this thing called Corona Fighter. It literally is a bot that runs on WhatsApp. And so every morning when you wake up, it asks you a series of questions. How are you feeling? I feel so-and-so. Have you got a mild fever? Are you showing symptoms? Yada, 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 yada. The clever thing is they built the bot on WhatsApp, but they've now connected the bot through an API to the HR systems of many of the large companies. So you don't have to show up to work to report that you're showing coronavirus symptoms. You complete the document in the bot. It keeps a track record using Google Warehouse and Google Database. It sends the information through the HR function of the large company. And without you showing up, it says to the HR company, Vusi is not coming in today because he's showing these symptoms. And by the way, we've escalated the team, we've escalated the case, and we've asked Vusi to report to this medical center so that he can get treated or he can get tested. Now, we're not getting into it for several reasons. It's kind of cluttered now. There's like 50 other apps doing the same thing. We also believe that the market opportunity is very short because we think that immediately the minute they find the vaccine, that market opportunity is going to diminish. But that's the kind of stuff we would look into. So if you're approaching an investor, make sure that you understand what does the investor look for. And you're going to get much money. You'd rather talk to 3 investors who are looking at your business, your industry, and your game than talk to 100 investors. And you're going to waste your time with 50 of them because they're looking for deals. Let me tell you guys another thing that you don't know. Sorry, Lorenzo, can I just add this?
Yeah.
Investors have to invest. So when you bother them to look at your pitch deck, you're not bothering the guy. It's his job. He has to find deals. That's literally his job. So you know, a lot of entrepreneurs get excited when they get called in by an investor to say, yeah, well, I'm interested. Let me come in here. No, he's only interested because he's trying to see, can he retrofit you into his little fund?
He's
Because he
looking for a
needs
deal.
to do the
He's
deal.
looking for a deal.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
One guy said the other day something so nice. He said, I looked at the terms and conditions 10 years too late. Right. So, I mean, this is what happens to a lot of the entrepreneurs. We get in, we got the money. 10 years later is when the terms and conditions become relevant.
I'm going to tell you an even scarier story. There's a guy I follow, he's on Medium, and he's a great entrepreneur. And he came out literally about 2 months ago. Now, I met him because I was speaking at a conference in Austin, Texas. And he wrote this piece, and I phoned him afterwards. I said, dude, is this true? He said, every single bit of it. Do you know what happened? So we all know him. We celebrate. I'm not going to share his name, but we all know him. We celebrate him. He's done exceptionally well. He sold his business for 180 million US dollars. He got nothing.
Wow.
Not a cent. So I said, explain to me how the hell that happened. And he said to me, he held odds, not prefs. And nobody had told him how to structure a decent corporate finance deal. And what happens when a lot of these deals get done is a lot of preference literally goes to the preference shareholders. And even then, there's different types of preference shareholders. You get super preference shareholders. And so his business was sold for 180 million, but the EV that he had raised his last capital round on was 220 million. So even though he sold for 180 million, for a lot of the ordinary shareholders, that additional 40 million where their wealth was sitting wasn't realized. So I said, but then why did you sell? He said, because the VCs I was in were closing their funds. They were end of fund term. By the way, another thing, guys, VCs have a fund cycle. They were end of fund term. They had to exit, and they just had to sell the business. So they took, to you guys, the story on TechCrunch was, hey, business folds for $180 million. He says, what you're not aware is we had done a deal, 6 months prior to that, we had just raised off a $220 million valuation. So actually, we went backwards, and the reason they sold for $180 million was because the preference shareholders just wanted their money out, because that's where the VC money was sitting. Now, how do you build a business for 10 years, exit it, and not get a cent? Happens. So read the T's and C's. This is, read the T's and C's and make sure that you understand exactly what you're getting into.
Yeah. Vusi, I know that you're all about scaling South African entrepreneurs, South African companies. How can we bring them to Dubai and to the UAE? How can we bridge, set up a bridge between African entrepreneurs, Middle East? There is demand here. There's capital here. There is affluent people. They might need a lot of goods and services that are sold from Africa. How can we bring them here?
So I think the first thing you and I are going to do, Lorenzo, I said to you immediately after this conversation, is we're going to create a little Creative Zone VT product. And we're definitely going to go to the market here, and we're going to enable people to understand what the opportunities are. I'm very keen on just letting people know what the options are. But so that's the first thing, is I'd love for us to work together on a long-term project to see, a simple thing like how do we rationalize what the potential is? We put together a simple A4 document that if you want to be based here, partner with us, and these are the things that we're going to help you do, right? That's the first thing. The second thing is if you're an entrepreneur and you are anywhere right now watching this conversation, unless your business is about building a store and selling shoes, you can be based anywhere and offer the service and product to a customer in any place, right? So the thing you've got to figure out is, how do I make the globe my customer rather than the person I can see my customer? And the how to do it. Now, if you try to do this yourself, you're going to spend 3 years. You're going to get it wrong. You're going to lose a lot of money. So the thing to do is to find a partner that you can work with who's going to help you, because what you are going to learn in 5 years, they learned 10 years ago. So I tell you right now, I told you we're busy doing our cap raise. So I walk into the guy who's helping us with our cap raise, a guy called Colin, a phenomenal guy. And I'm sitting in, and he says to me, but Vusi, you're Vusi. Why are you in my office? I said this to him, you guys are going to love this. I said, Colin, the reason I think I've succeeded is because I love being a white belt. What does that mean? I said, I don't ever want to be a black belt. That means the minute I reach mastery, I move to the next level where I'm a novice again. So I'm here sitting in front of you even though I have an 8 years track record in this game, because Colin, you have run, and he has run, you've run a $3 billion VC fund. I'd like to learn from you how to do that. So I'm going to be a white belt. You're going to teach me how to go from here to here. And what he can teach me in the next 6 months would take me 20 years to learn. So the question you asked was the how. I think the simple thing to say is, if you're in this conversation, you're thinking about going global, definitely give you guys a ring. And I want to see if you guys can, and I can put something together that we can go to market with. Like, guys, here's an opportunity. 100%. But make sure that you are a white belt. Don't be the master. Make sure that you understand exactly what you're getting into, and make sure that you partner with people that can help you. Yeah, 100%. In fact, Dubai has become so attractive from a tax point of view, from an operations point of view, banking. So we have a lot of clients from South Africa, from Africa, that are setting up here and operating globally. I mean, you can have your e-commerce company selling in Uganda, but it's based in Dubai, and banking is in Dubai, and so on. So anyhow, definitely a lot of potential that we can explore on that. Vusi, we have another 7 minutes left with you today. There's a lot of questions coming in. People are asking about, how do you see Africa? How do you see the future of South Africa? Maybe I want to connect it. I saw you commenting about what happened with George Floyd in the last week, 10 days. Yeah. And what's happening in the US. I mean, for me to see what's happening in the US now, it's totally mind-boggling, in the sense of, I never saw a US being people breaking shops, and this is something totally unseen. How do you see this shifting power, economies? What's happening around the world? What are we seeing? Oh no. My connection can you hear me? I can, yeah. My connection seems to be unstable. This is a developing economy problem. So my apologies about that. I think you're on the money, right? So the thing to, and it looks like it's still unstable here. So I'm going to try and, sorry, Lorenzo, can you hear me? We hear you, yeah. You sometimes freeze for a couple of seconds, but then comes back. Okay, so I'll speak, and if I freeze, you guys will hear the audio. Yeah. I think the big change happening at the moment, in the world at the moment, is a very simple one. People want to be seen, and they want to be recognized for who they are, not for who they've had to become. This is why you've had the LGBTI movement, because people are saying, I don't want to be who society tells me to be anymore. I want to be me. And this is why you have African Americans in the US going, if the system is unequal, and when we talk to you peacefully, you're not going to do something about it, we're going to become violent, right? And I'm not condoning violence, but there's also been no proof linking people who are protesting. In fact, there's been proof linking Antifa to the violence. Let me tell you, I think the same thing is coming to Africa. I think many of these sub-Saharan African countries over the next 10 to 20 years are going to see. South Africa today went into this coronavirus with a 29% unemployment by the narrow definition. It's projected we're going to come out of it with a 42% unemployment by the narrow definition. For those people who don't understand what that means, in the United States during the Great Depression, unemployment was at 24%. It's called the Great Depression for a reason. We've been living in a above 27% unemployment society for the past 10, 15 years. What's that tell you? There's something bubbling. And sooner or later, people are going to go, I want my fair share of the pie too. It's enough now. So my expectation is that you're going to see a lot more political turmoil, particularly in sub-Saharan Africa. So if you can diversify your business, diversify your income, and give yourself options, don't wait for the discontent to start before you start doing that. Do it now, because it's not an if question. It's a when question. And Black Lives Matter in the US is about police brutality. In South Africa, it was about how the army treated people who live in poor townships during the lockdown. Similar in Kenya, it was about how the army treated journalists, right? It's not going to go away. It's a global movement of people saying, I want to be recognized and I want a part of the dream. I don't want to live on the peripheries of society anymore. If you're an entrepreneur and you're watching this conversation and you're wondering, what does that mean for you? It means you need to start hedging. You desperately need to start hedging. You start looking for opportunities, treating the world as your globe. Take the heavy weight off. make yourself faster, nimbler, more agile, and to develop new opportunities. That's really what it means.
But who's going to fix this? Is it the government? Is it the private sector? Is it the entrepreneurs? Who's doing the fixing?
Government, you know, I have as much faith in governments as I do, I don't know, man, in, you know, the hardy-da that messes up my garden every single morning. I don't, you know, I think politicians have the fortitude of a centipede. I don't rate them particularly highly because they play to the agenda. Leaders set the agenda. Politicians play to the agenda. Now, if you're playing to the agenda, you're not setting the theme. The question you asked was, who's going to fix it? Leaders are going to fix it. Leaders can be in any field. They can be in entrepreneurship, they can be in venture capital, they can be in society, they can be in civil service, they can be the elderly, the young, but the leaders will emerge. And no matter where the leaders are, they will tend to gravitate towards each other and find each other and work together for a common solution. That's who's going to fix it. I don't have particularly a lot of, and the mistake we've made very quickly is we've mistaken politicians for leaders because we come from an era where some politicians were leaders. So because Nelson Mandela was a leader and a politician, we now think that every single person that holds the presidency must therefore be a leader. They're not. They're just a politician, you know. Because Barack Obama was a leader and a president, it's now presumed, it's not necessarily the case. I think leaders are going to emerge everywhere. And I think they're emerging already as it is. You're seeing them on social media. They're speaking and people are finding their voice and people are siding with them and sharing their opinions. What you can't do, wherever you are, is don't stay silent. Do not be silent because it affects you too. You know, it affects you too. Sooner or later, it comes down to you. So become part of a just cause. Make sure that your voice is clear. Don't spread hate, but by no means stay quiet.
100%. Vusi, we have a last question for you. What does the future hold for Vusi? What are your ambitions? Where would you like to be in 5 years from now when we talk to you again?
Sure. Man, that's a tough question. I want to be lighter. I want to be less heavy, less ego, definitely less possessions, definitely. I want to be a lot more agile, a lot more nimble, a lot more connected. I don't want my personal happiness tied to my personal wealth. And I want phenomenal relationships with my family, with my kids. I want to matter. I want to make a difference. I want to be in the rooms where the future is being discussed and become part of that future. And by God's grace, mashallah, you know, if it comes with money, I'll take it. But I think the word is just lighter. I think the word life is very heavy at the moment. Everything is heavy on your shoulders, heavy responsibilities, heavy. It's tiring. I just want to be much lighter, much more free.
Very good point. Vusi, the first flight from Johannesburg to Dubai that opens up by Emirates, you're requested to be on it, please, on us at Creative Zone. You have a 5-star hotel, everything booked, ready to go. We need you here for 2-3 days. We need to chew your brains. We need you over here. We're going to talk business. We're going to see how we can bridge Africa and the Middle East with entrepreneurs. This is the movement, you know, and African entrepreneurs need this. They need to get out. They need to explore other markets. So we truly look forward to this conversation with you.
I'm going to do you one better. I would love to do it. Let's definitely do it. But I think even between now and then, let's start putting some of our thoughts down. I'm happy to pop you an email with a couple of my thoughts. And then let's go, how do we action some of the things so that by the time we meet, we've made some progress. But yeah, I'm in. Let's do it.
Done. To all the attendees, 250 people that connected there today, thank you so much. Again, we are at Creative Zone. We can help you set up your businesses. You need advice. You need to see what kind of activities, banking solutions. We're here to help. Yeah, it's creativezone.ae. And we're happy to help. Vusi, we cannot thank you enough for this incredible session. It was one of the highlights of my life, 1 hour with Vusi. I thank you so much. And we really look forward to keep on working with you, Vusi.
I can't wait, my friend. Let's do it.
Thank you, man. Thank you to everybody for connecting and have a lovely day and weekend ahead.
Asante sana.
Thank you, Vusi. Bye-bye. Bye.